Welcome back to the Bad
Hello.
Pipes podcast. Today we got three bad boys here. I'm the king of the bad boys, Andrew.
That's me.
That's you?
That's me. I'm
No
Scott.
one even knows your name. Damn it. Shit.
Hi,
Me.
Scargiver Isaac here.
Whoa.
Ugh.
Oh.
Ugh.
All right. I feel like I had a hot take to just shoot into for this
Oh, no.
episode, and then I forgot it. Maybe I'll remember.
You're shooting
someday.
hot things, huh? Okay.
Oh, I'm shooting hot blanks because I forgot it. So today, this episode for today, which is the one we're recording today. For this episode, we just watched two shows. We didn't even
We did.
watch any movies. You can't even call us a movie podcast anymore. Just call us a yapcast because we're fucking yapping.
We watched The Gentleman,
Yes.
and we watched Fallout from Prime.
We watched Fallout from Prime.
Yes.
What do we want to talk about?
Where do you want to start?
Yeah. Do you want to do like Fallout or?
I'm down for either.
All right, let's start with Fallout then. So I've been
Okay.
playing a lot of Fallout 4,
Same.
Film.
and
It was on sale, wasn't it?
I don't know. I've owned it for forever, I guess.
Fair.
But I've been playing a lot of that, and I don't know if I said this on the podcast last week or if I just said this in passing with you, Scott, but I was like, yeah, I went straight for the Brotherhood stuff, and I started doing Brotherhood stuff immediately.
Yeah.
And I just feel like my major gripe with this show is how they portray the Brotherhood.
Yep.
Because for a like pseudo-military organization to promote a guy from within that everyone thinks like backstabbed or betrayed their best friend, and then like there's also like the newest guy to the squad apparently, or the group or the regiment or platoon or whatever it's called, the chapter of the Brotherhood, I guess, immediately being like, oh, we think that you betrayed your friend, and then like we're gonna give you a promotion, and we're going to like just that whole aspect for like the setup of his character, talking about oh shoot, what's his name?
Maximus.
Maximus, yeah.
I was like, I hate this. Like it would only promote like skullduggery in the ranks, because everyone else is gonna be like, oh, if I'm willing to like backstab people, I'm gonna like be elevated in position. And maybe they'll address that in the second season with the head guy in charge or whatever. Him like being shown as sort of more villainous or something. I'm
Yeah,
not
the
really
like
sure.
the head like cleric or whatever he is.
Yeah. But like it didn't make any sense. And so at the end of the season, whenever they like kind of circle back around that and rectify it to some degree, like it's good for the character, because you're like, oh, okay, no, I actually can trust this character, but also it still doesn't make sense from the like the Brotherhood of Steel perspective for me. So that was like,
Yeah, I also felt off about it, but the Pride when shows up there in that first episode, and then dips out again.
Yeah.
And my thought on it is, so this is taking place clearly like in the timeline. It seems like, based on where everything's at, this is after all of the games.
yeah, this
I'm
is after
guessing.
Fallout 4.
Yeah. So in it being after all of the games, we don't really know because they haven't confirmed yet. And Todd Howard did say that they would confirm it eventually. Where like what ending this is canon following after?
All right, so this, just to set the timeline here, the show takes place in the year 2296. Fallout 4 takes place in 2287. Fallout New Vegas is set in 2281. And I don't see Fallout 3 in this list, but who cares?
Okay, so in my mind, post like where things are at in this particular chapter of the Brotherhood, it feels like it's been separated from the main chapter or is doing its own thing a little bit more. Then being attached to the like the Pride Win, for example, we see the Pride Win arrive, like I said, and then it dips out again. Almost like it's like there to check up and make sure they're good and then peace out again. It feels almost like this is like a it's like those
like a rogue faction.
Not rogue, but like some of those units in Vietnam that got like, you know, enemy post between the forward operating bases, and they get stuck out there for a while, and then the next thing you know, they find them and they're all addicted to heroin and wearing ears around their neck. So I just feel like we didn't see enough of the Brotherhood as a whole for me to have a negative take on this very small sample, because the people in the area too, their view on the Brotherhood, specifically these people, is not like a good, like nobody's like, oh, the Brotherhood, like nobody's excited to see them. I'm interested to see how they stretch that out. I really, really, really didn't like Maximus's character in the first couple episodes, and then oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I feel like the actor does not help with that either.
Yeah,
like,
I didn't like him in the first.
Has like a goofy expression that's like not really matching whatever's going on. I don't know, but go ahead.
I feel like I didn't like him. He's an idiot savant trait. Like that's his character, right? In the skill tree, he's an idiot savant. Like he's good at lots of things and he's scrappy and he's good at figuring it out, but he's very dumb. And he would be. I mean, he was like, how little was he? He was like 6, 7 when the Brotherhood found him. Like it's not like they're focusing on reading, writing, and arithmetic in fucking Brotherhood school.
They do, because to be a knight, you have to be able to work on all of your own weaponry. Yeah,
that's true. So I think though, his character, the first 2 episodes, I did not like until Johnny Pemberton's character showed up as his like squire, and once they had that relationship, I was like, okay, I could kind of see what they were doing here. And it was weird because I loved Lucy's character. I thought the Vault Dweller, that whole thing was great, and I am so pleased.
She was phenomenal. She was the best part of the show.
Well, yep. She's phenomenal. She's not the best part of the show. Walton Goggins, hands down, was the best part of that show. That man, I am so grateful that he finally has been given a lead role. He is so good in that show. And him and her together, the fact that it's the 2 of them together in the next season, and they're like going to New Vegas, and that, oh my god, I'm so excited.
I was gonna say, I think where they left it off with them kind of like heading off together into the sunset, it was kind of like,
that's good. It's got like the old country feel,
country
western kind of feel.
It left me sitting there like, I need season 2 like now.
Yes,
I do have
and
a
also
couple
that
of
shot of New Vegas was like, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do have a couple of holes to poke in your Brotherhood stuff. So the Brotherhood started in California. Like the Brotherhood rose to prominence in Northern California, and so it would make sense that they have like a large presence in California. Like maybe not in the South where like the NCR is, and if you dive into like the lore of the games, like the NCR and the Brotherhood at different times have been like friendly and at war with each other. So like it makes sense for them to like not be friendly at this point in time, but also like a rogue chapter or a chapter that's not particularly in with tradition, I guess, this close to home just like doesn't resonate well with me.
Well, they're not. Well, the West Coast Brotherhood was destroyed. I don't remember when, but they were wiped out and moved. And I believe that there was a remnant that was left, or that was sent over from the East Coast. I mean, they fly the East Coast flag. The red and white flag is the East Coast Brotherhood flag.
Yeah.
So,
well, that comes in after Fallout 3, because they've got I think they're called the Outcasts or something like that. I can't remember. But you've got like splinter group of Brotherhood that's like, fuck protecting the wasteland. Let's just go get the technology so that people can't fucking blow up the world again. And they go off to do their own thing. They're the Outcasts. And then you still have like the Brotherhood itself, which is like, no, we have a duty to protect the people, and also we need to collect the technology to protect the people. And so like that's kind of like the idealistic aspect of the Brotherhood, but you don't get any of that in the show. I feel like you just get the I mean, like the commentary there is like, oh, you guys just want the technology so that you guys can use it, which has happened historically, but also like there should be some internal conflict about that somewhere.
I think they'll probably expand on it in the second season, because what I felt when I watched it was that because Maximus was saved from Shady Sands from a young age, right? And he's been in this camp, you can imagine, or at least somewhat ever since, but now he's in training to be a squire. Or whatever. The reason that he joined is because he was saved by a knight.
Yeah, I mean, he's an initiate, yeah.
But the idea of this being a like remnant leftover chapter of the West Coast that survived the NCR, that's kind of been insulated from the outside world, and they've been able to kind of do their own thing. As soon as you see the Pridewind show up, I'm like, okay, maybe they're a West Coast chapter that survived the NCR. The NCR collapsed, and now the East Coast post Fallout 4 is in full blown kicking. The East Coast Brotherhood of Steel. We see the Pridewind. So I'm guessing that like maybe they're trying, the remnants, the East Coast is now trying to like spread out and kind of organize them all under one banner, which is why they're flying an East Coast flag. But that's all assumption. The idea, though, to me, is that they just felt like a little isolated pocket, which made me kind of be like, well, that's why the religious side of it's so crazy in this particular chapter.
Yeah.
But I think what they've set up is the opportunity for season 2 to really dive into the Brotherhood of Steel hardcore with Maximus's character in his own thread, while simultaneously we have Lucy and the Ghoul chasing her father into New Vegas.
I do hope that they kind of go into more of like the mythological side of like the questing knights aspect of them.
Yeah.
It would be cool to be able to root for the guys in the fucking power armor. And I feel like you don't get that in a lot of different properties.
Yeah, it's true. I do love, though, a lot, the lore changes that they made that aren't retconning anything, they're just giving new information. But the idea of having Vault-Tec be responsible for starting the war is hilarious to me, but also doesn't necessarily go against anything in the games. I like the idea of them being like, this is mutually assured destruction, so how do we get it rolling? Well, we just detonate a bomb, and then America thinks it was China, and they launch their nukes, and then China launched their nukes, and then it's over. And that's fascinating. There's also a Dune Part 2 Atreides nuclear doctrine aspect of this, that like the Vault-Tec overseers have access to nuclear weapons, apparently. because Hank clearly detonated a nuke in Shady Sands. And so I'm like, how'd they get nukes? I don't know. But there was just a lot, like, I have to
Probably
give it
just
to
tied
them.
a bunch of mini nukes together.
Yeah, that's true. I have to. Well, that's another thing. Johnny Pemberton's character. When he has his foot destroyed and he meets that crazy doctor who gives him that concoction, and then they're like, "We think you're a ghoul." Do you remember that whole sequence when he pulls the arrow out of his neck?
Yes.
I don't think he's a ghoul. I think he gave him the super mutant serum. I think he's gonna turn into a super mutant. Which is gonna be hilarious.
Yeah, because at first you think he's just huffing piss.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you watch his foot heal itself, and you're like, oh shit. But there is no serum that turns people into ghouls, but there absolutely is a serum that turns people into super mutants.
Yeah,
and we haven't seen one yet.
The whole idea of ghouls is that they're like people who were in radiation so long it like changed their DNA to like survive radiation better.
Right. And it also made me... Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, like, you even see the ghoul get his finger cut off, and like it doesn't fucking regrow. You know, he has to like sew a new one on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was a very well done show. I thought it was extremely true to the tone and general lore of the games, and I'm very excited for season 2.
Yeah, I felt like they had. I feel like they did a pretty good job with all of the different storylines. Like I don't think there was ever a point when I was watching it where it would flip to someone else's storyline. I'd be like, oh, I kind of just want to get back to the other one. Each one had its own interesting aspects, to where it was kind of like, oh, like I'm interested to see where this goes. Like even Lucy's brother. His entire plot line of trying to figure out what's going on in Vaults 31, 32, and 33. Like, even that was interesting to me, and they tied it in very well to the entire story.
I cannot tell you how hard it is. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, her brother, it's wild because he is 30 years old. He's as old as I am, but he looks like 40 something.
Yeah, wasn't he? Yeah. He's from like a Disney Channel show or something, right?
Yeah, he's from Hannah Montana.
Oh, that's right. That's where he's from.
He's like the young kid who's like always trying to grift people or something.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you guys how hard it is to write a story, specifically a television medium, and have that many different threads all tie up in 10 minutes, as well as they did in the last 30 minutes of the show. When you had Moldaver giving her speech to Lucy, and that whole sequence, and everything is getting tied up with a bow, that is so fucking hard.
Along with her mom being the like ghoul sitting there at the table. It was I was very pleased with how it tied up pretty nice and neat there at the end. Just a nice little present with a bow on top.
Yeah, they did good with it.
Highly recommend.
I do like that they didn't just show the NCR as like a good guy. It's like, no, the NCR is also doing some fucked up shit here and there.
I loved what Walton Goggins said, where he said the war never changes line, but then he said it's like everybody trying to do their like what they think is the right way to like fix it. And that's kind of where that's not the exact quote, but that's the gist of his line. Is like, that's what this is. Like, it's a constant battle because everybody thinks they have the right idea to fix it, and that's just what the NCR was. They were just another faction that thought they had the right idea. And that every faction in Fallout is supposed, like in the games too. It's not like there's a dark brotherhood in the Fallout games. There is no evil faction. even in Fallout 4, the
No,
Institute's
like even
not
at the best of
evil.
times, the Brotherhood is like we're anti-ghoul, we're
Mhm.
anti-synth, anti-super mutant, especially anti-super mutant because they're not good for anyone. But yeah,
There are evil people,
I just
but
wanted
there's
to
no
temper
evil
my love.
group.
Just look, all right, guys. I love the Brotherhood of
Here we
Steel.
go.
They have power armor. All right, I love it.
Okay.
I love the aesthetic of it. I love the idea of like these questing knights trying to find these like relics of the old world, these powerful artifacts that should not be left in like anyone's hands. All right,
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love that. Also, they'll just fucking murder ghouls though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andrew, I fear we're never going to get good guy brothers.
Well,
We're not going to get what?
here's what's
Good
interesting
guy,
about.
good guy brothers of steel.
Well, they didn't show us any paladins, which I thought was really
Fair.
interesting.
Fair.
So like the first,
Mhm.
the highest ranking dude you really see is like the head cleric or whatever for that chapter, and then Maximus serves under a knight, you know, and knights are like, I mean, if you're playing Fallout 4, you meet a knight who's like just a fucking ding dong bloodthirsty kind of dude. You're like, man, this guy's kind of an idiot, but only because he hates me for no reason.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know where I was
think
going with
well, because the NCR so stomped the Brotherhood, it does feel like this was like an East Coast detachment sent west, and that's what we're following. But I do think that, like, I could see them having like Arthur Maxon's Brotherhood from Fallout 4 show up in the next one with the desire to like take New Vegas, and that be the Brotherhood storyline.
Yeah, but if they do that, then the Brotherhood is just gonna be like all bad at that point.
They're not, but that's the thing. They're not bad.
But if they're like, if you make them trying to like conquer New Vegas or like conquest New Vegas, then they're just essentially the Legion, right? From New Vegas, but in a different skin.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Like
true.
that's
It'll be
kind of my
interesting.
biggest gripe with the game New Vegas, right? Is that you have like the NCR and the Legion are like the two major factions, and the Legion is just like outright villains. It's like they're slavers, they're raiders, they're murderers, they're like awful. And then you have the
Yeah.
NCR that's like kind of portrayed as like just generally all around good guys. Like I can't think of any quests off my head where they do some dubious stuff. And then you just have like big gangs essentially that are like causing havoc in their own ways.
Mm-hmm.
So like for this show to portray the NCR as like, yeah, we're also doing fucked up shit for what we believe is a greater good. I think that's just like good in general for the show.
Yeah, I mean, there's a theory that went around for a while too that when I deep dived after the show came out, that the specifically the Brotherhood chapter that we're following are all former Legion, which is why they all have Legion names. Thaddeus, Maximus, whatever. And that we haven't actually seen true Brotherhood yet.
That would be interesting.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm excited. It's a great show. I'm excited to see where they go with it. Season 2 can't come soon enough.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Should also be said though that like a lot of nightly chapters historically, they would like maybe not give you a new name, but like typically they did have very Latin sounding names.
Yeah, but weren't they normally medieval sounding? Like, they weren't necessarily Roman.
I don't know. That's a good question.
I feel
'Cause,
like
like-
almost everybody that we met in this chapter had a Roman name.
I can't
Oh
remember
yeah,
what
we
the
had
name
we had
of
what?
the
We had Titus.
cleric was.
We had Titus, Maximus. Who was the squire? Who was the
Thaddeus.
That was
Thaddeus.
Thaddeus.
Guy. I can't find the
Quintus.
guy.
We had
Quintus.
Quintus as well.
Yeah.
Like in
That
the
would be weird.
in the original Brotherhood games, you'd have like Jacob, Mary, Arthur, Tristan. Like those are all,
Yeah.
other. So I don't know. It's just it was a crazy Reddit theory that I saw that I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Drake's dropping his response to Kendrick tonight. Let's fucking go! So
Rat
excited!
Heap.
I'm
Nothing
still
about that, but I don't
Oh,
think he should come back.
A bunch of
I'm
dudes
so-
reciting poetry at each other.
I'm so living for this rap beef right now. I'm marinating in it. I'm washing myself in it.
All right,
I
enough
haven't
about that
seen any of
nonsense,
it.
though. So, do you think that they're gonna break with tradition and have a different elder, or do you think that they're gonna have another Maxon in line?
Either they'll kill off Maxon, he died somewhere between Fallout 4 and now, or they'll have somebody new. Or it'll be him. They'll either have somebody new, he died, somebody new's here, or they're gonna cast somebody to play Maxon.
It'll be a woman.
Just
Just watch.
Surprise me. Brittany Maxon,
Elizabeth
Elizabeth Maxon,
Jessica Maxon.
Megan Maxon. Sounds like a porn star.
No, it does. Yeah, I think that
The
we will
timeline would
deep
make
dive.
sense for Arthur Maxon to still be the elder.
It would, yeah, and he'd be older, like not super old, but older.
Yeah, I mean,
What?
I don't know how old he is in Fallout 4, but he doesn't look middle-aged. He looks like maybe in his mid-30s or so.
Yeah, so he'd be like in his 40s, 50s, 40s.
Like maybe 50-ish.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I'm interested to see if what parts of the lore they decide to focus on building out in the next season. So like we learn a lot about the Vault Dwellers and Vault Tech in that whole part in this first season. We learned a little bit about the NCR, we learned a little bit about the Brotherhood, but we haven't touched we saw the Enclave briefly in the beginning of episode 2. That's it. We haven't gone into the Enclave at all. So there's
I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
When was that? What happened?
with the dog, when the guy takes the dog, the professor with the dog.
Oh, that's
the
right. Yeah,
that's the
he comes
Enclave.
to the
Yeah.
Enclave.
Uh-huh. So we see them briefly.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what parts of the lore they decide to focus on in the second season. Because as long as we stay West Coast, that's the same reason Obsidian made New Vegas on the West Coast. There's a lot more wiggle room in the lore on the West Coast than there is on the East Coast. So I think they can get away with a little bit more bending of stuff.
And
So
with the Brotherhood having potentially won, you might say, Fallout 4, there's a
mhm.
lot of room for like technology that they got from the Institute coming into play. So like we could see fucking teleporters at some point.
We could see teleporters. I could see synths becoming a thing, especially because this is from the people that made Westworld. I could see that's why they avoided synths in the first season, because they didn't want those comparisons to Westworld.
Yeah.
But I could see synths coming into play. I could see they might. I feel like if they just stick with the original Fallout 1, 2, and 3 factions of Enclave, Brotherhood, it's kind of the battle between the Enclave and the Brotherhood. And then maybe like little factions, little pseudo factions speckled in here and there. I think that could be interesting. If they're gonna do New Vegas, it'll be interesting to see if they decide to mention the Legion or bring out the Legion in any way. I think that would be fucking dope in a TV show, but also, I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be weird because what was the timeline between this show and that?
Right, but
Like 20 years since the game New Vegas?
But what's the canon ending of New Vegas?
Well, I'm just saying it'd be interesting. Because, like, I feel like, the Legion won just because they were, like, more bloodthirsty. That'd be kind of interesting. Or if they were like, we managed to beat them back, so they're just still here, but, I don't know.
I do think that when the proper Brotherhood shows up, Maximus will be. I think that there is a way or an opportunity for that whole chapter to be, kind of dissolved when the proper Brotherhood shows up. Like, what the fuck do you guys think you're doing out here?
Well, I imagine we'll probably actually promote him to Paladin, and then he'll have to deal with like higher issues.
I think probably when we first meet him in the next season, it will be like in power armor on a mission, and it's like boom, here we go. I don't know, maybe not.
Well, they see him as like the hero of this operation, basically, where they have come across like micro fusion technology or something, and or at least a way to create more like fusion cores. So he'd definitely be hailed as like a big name in the Brotherhood at that point.
I also like the fact that now he is being promoted off of what is, for all intents and purposes, another lie. Where Dane's like, was that their leader? And then she grabs his arm and he's like, no, wait. And she's like, all hail Maximus. And she just starts screaming it. And he's like, now it's like too late. Like he didn't actually kill her. I don't think that's a plot point, and I don't think that's going to come up again. I just think for him as a character, it's like another undeserved next step, which is interesting.
Yeah, it is.
I did love that Lucy's character, even to the end, did not like she's heartbroken, obviously, but she's still like. I love that they didn't try to like turn her into some sort of wasteland monster at the end. Like she stayed true to that like vault dweller morals the whole show until her heart was broken. So it'll be interesting to see in the next episode.
That's what's tough about the games, right? And it kind of like calls back to the games there with, you can be the good character who always makes the good decision, and like that's what she represents. You got Maximus, who represents the like failing into. Failing
the
up, I guess.
He's the idiot savant.
Yeah, you've got.
They released their character sheets.
Did they?
Yeah, you can Google their character sheets. Bethesda released them all for each main character, so that if people played Fallout, they could make those characters if they wanted to.
Well, you can't make the ghoul because you can't play as a ghoul.
No, you can't. No, you can in Fallout 3.
You can play as a ghoul in Fallout 3.
Yeah, you can get turned into a ghoul.
What the fuck?
Pretty sure, if I remember correctly.
That's crazy. Why would you want to be ugly?
The powers that come with it. In breaking news, or in other news, George Miller says the story for the next Mad Max film is complete. It will take place 1 year before Fury Road.
And it's going to follow Max.
Yep.
Tom Hardy's coming back.
Nice.
And then his trilogy will be complete. It's so great that he decided that Fury Road's the end, and now he's going back and making the other two. Because Fury Road has aged like fine wine. And
I love that movie.
It is the greatest action movie of the 2010s or 20-aughts, whatever you call it. It is one of the greatest action movies ever made.
I think when we did that,
better than all 3 Star Wars sequels.
when we did it for the podcast, I think we had the same consensus.
Have either one of you read Black and Chrome?
No.
Or is it Red and Chrome? I can't. Fire and Chrome? Hang on. What's the fucking book called? It's on my shelf, but I'm not getting up to go check.
I have no clue, but no, I haven't read it.
Sorry, it's called Blood, Sweat, and Chrome. It is the wild, true story of the making of Mad Max Fury Road. Dude, it is insane. That book is insane. Uh, the making of that movie is fucking crazy. It is so awesome. I also love that he realized that Charlize Theron and Tom Hardy would never step foot on set together again, so he had to make the next two where they're separate. Yeah, great. George Miller, when he swings, it's either a phenomenal film or just dog shit. But Mad Max has
person I got
always
in an
been
argument with about
phenomenal.
Movies and things, we somehow got on the topic of Mad Max, and he was like, God, dude, he was just like shitting on the first Mad Max movie, and I was like, you're wrong. You're just so fucking
Which one?
wrong, dude.
The OG one?
Mad Max. I was like, dude, it's a
Fury
fucking character study.
Fury Road or the first Mad Max?
The first Mad Max.
Dude, how could you shit on that movie? He made it for like $500.
That's what I said. I was like, dude, the budget for that was like nothing, and it's like a wonderful character study of like what a guy who represents like justice in the world, like what it would take for him to become the thing that he hates. Like that's like the whole point of the movie, right? And
that's why he made Road Warrior, because he felt like he didn't get to make Mad Max the way that he wanted. I mean, all the extras
like, the
in
character
that movie,
kind of needs redemption after that.
Yeah, he does. All of the extras in that movie, all of them, and there's a lot of extras in the first Mad Max. All the extras were paid in beer because they couldn't pay him in money.
It's got like so many memorable moments too, like the push me, shove you. Oh yeah, says who? Like I still randomly say that to myself. And then like the scene where he's like, the car's flipped and there's like gas leaking and it's like dripping into the pan and he's like watching it run down into the fucking fire. Like there's so much tension in those like small moments that like yeah, Fury Road and like the Road Warrior and even Thunderdome to an extent like have these like tense moments, but like that was something done on a budget that was like, God, man, like, I don't know. Kind of that idea of like, yeah, you can throw money at a thing and make it better, but like from the start, he had it down.
Yeah. And Max is like, the thing I loved about Fury Road, I was nervous. I love Tom Hardy, but I was nervous about Fury Road because I was like, is he going to be able to do it? And he did great. But it's also like, that's him at the end, right? So that's him like after going through everything that Max has been through. And so he doesn't talk much. He's just like, fuck, I've seen everything. So what, like, survive is kind of it. And, yeah, because that first one, he's, you know, the first few, really, Max is pretty chatty. Few first couple. But I think, yeah, what's that?
He's always, like, sort of quiet, but, like, he will have, like, a bit of a conversation with someone. Whereas in Fury Road, he just, like, is a fucking animal. He just, like, grunts at people. Which is the character at that point. Like, survive. Right. If you're only out for survival, you're no better than an animal, right? And yeah, it just captures that.
There's that scene in the first Mad Max with where he like throws the bone saw. He has the saw, and it's like you can cut through the handcuffs in 10 minutes, or you can cut through your ankle in 5, and then he just walks away, and you're just like, fuck, this dude's brutal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a great movie. I haven't seen it in a while, but I gotta watch it again. Very excited for the sequel.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Very excited for Furiosa.
Scott, we watched like all 4 of them for an episode, right?
Yeah, we did all 4 of them.
Oh yeah.
Furiosa is going to be amazing. Very excited about Furiosa.
You know who
I'm ready
else
for
makes crazy action stuff?
Say
Not
it.
really, yeah.
Guy Ritchie.
Who?
Guy
does?
Ritchie, the man who tried to make a gangster King Arthur movie.
Dude, that King Arthur fucking slaps. I don't care what anybody says.
I will say
fucking
this,
love
man,
that
he
movie.
loves an on-foot chase scene, dude.
Dude, so much. So much. My favorite is
so-
the one on rock and roll it with the like Vaseline on the lens, though. That's the best one.
I fucking love when the Russian dude is just like Gerard Butler's getting all like, you see him huffing and puffing, and then you got the Russian mercenaries just running behind him, like back straight, perfect running form, just like cold, even breaths, and like then it cuts back to Gerard Butler and it's like ragged, like, and then
So good.
he just fucking hits him in the side of the head with a 2x4.
I think my favorite Guy Ritchie movie has to be Aladdin.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Well, I can tell you both now that the amount of... I'm hoping it was the amount of studio interference, but the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare is not good. It is
I've
very
heard it
bad.
was not particularly good.
It was not good. If they had focused on Henry Cavill and Alan Richardson killing Nazis, it would have been awesome. But they spent way too much time in the weeds on a subplot that does not matter, and it drags the whole movie down.
Fair.
So,
my
Isaac,
favorite
you might know
guy...
this. How connected is The Gentleman, the movie that he made in 2019, to this? Is this just like a retelling of the movie?
No, it's very different. This is just an idea of the only thing that those two things have in common is a secret weed farm where the entrance is in a storage container.
Okay.
That is it. Besides that, they have absolutely nothing in common. The Gentleman movie is okay. It's not great. Charlie Hunnam's fun. McConaughey's fun. Hugh Grant's weird and fun, but it's not very good. Guy Ritchie's greatest movies, Lock, Stock, Snatch, even The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Rock and Rolla. The thing that all of those have in common is a perfect execution of the vision that he had for it, with zero to little studio interference. He doesn't get to do that as much anymore. He does sometimes. The Covenant, the one that he made with Jake Gyllenhaal more recently, not a Guy Ritchie movie in any stylistic sense, but a phenomenal movie. Very well done. Very good action movie. Very good, like, modern day war movie that you don't get very often. Covering the Afghanistan conflict. Very good. Very, very good. But he doesn't do Guy Ritchie very often. So when I saw the show, and Sierra and I watched the first 30 minutes of the first episode, I was like, oh, Guy Ritchie's doing Guy Ritchie. Like, we haven't seen that since Rock and Rolla. No,
Yeah.
Man from U.N.C.L.E. We haven't seen that from Man from U.N.C.L.E. Man from U.N.C.L.E. is the last time that he got to, like, wax his style. King Arthur a little bit. So I was like, okay, here we go. And I was so pleasantly surprised how every episode, even though he didn't direct every episode, that every episode was like more and more and more of his style just staying. It didn't deviate. I really enjoyed it a lot. I love that show.
Yeah. Every time I looked at what's her name's brother, it was like, I feel like this guy was supposed to be Charlie Hunnam.
Yeah, the boxer? Yeah, me too. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
It was
but for sure,
such
this felt like
fun
a
show.
100% return to like Guy Ritchie doing Guy Ritchie.
Mhm.
You get that like in the dialogue too, because the dialogue feels like it's straight from Rock and Rolla, Snatch, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Yep.
Like he does the thing where he like uses character archetypes and whatnot. For like any character that's not a main character, right, is kind of like a pastiche, maybe would be the word. So like when you get like the priest guy, whatever the heck his name is, he's got like the little underling that, yeah, he'll be like, I got a sort of ambiguous text from him, and he's like, ambiguous? Well, what does that mean? And he goes, it means it could be interpreted in one or more ways. Dude, those fucking bits I laugh at every single time, dude.
They're so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, what the fucking text say?
The way he writes that he tackled Tommy Woo Woo. The way, like, having Peter Serafinowicz come in to play the brother in that first episode who gets his face destroyed with the shotgun. Good. He is so good. Like, you see him in John Wick Chapter 2 as, like, the gun sommelier who's, like, you know, giving John the breakdown of all the different weapons before he goes out. He's the Tick. Everybody, you know, the TV show The Tick.
I was just about to say, how are you gonna fucking bring him up without talking about his most famous role, which was The Tick?
Because when you look at him in this, it's much more of like a John Wick Chapter 2 role, where he's like in and out real quick. But he so chews the fat that you're like, why is not... It was like when I saw John Wick Chapter 2, I'm like, why do people not cast Peter Serafinowicz in more things? He's amazing. He's so good.
Well, I mean, he was in Star Wars.
Also, Vinnie Jones playing a not Vinnie Jones character was very refreshing. Him just being like the old caretaker of the land, of the estate. I was like, yes. I loved that he got to just be there and not have to, you know, necessarily murder people.
He was my favorite character of the whole show.
I love that he just has random animals in his house too. He's just like caretaking all these animals.
He's just like, he's that very reliable, like, right-hand man.
Yeah.
Like he you know he's gonna get shit handled.
Yep.
Yeah. And the side plot with him and his daughter was like so wholesome.
It was very sweet.
Yeah.
I loved that in the middle of the season we had a couple episodes with the travelers with the pikeys and with the other guy who wants to get signed up for the estate, who's the secret Nazi obsessed guy. Specifically that episode was one of the funniest. I was laughing when he brings them downstairs and shows them Hitler's testicle. I was laughing so hard. That whole sequence was so good.
I'm not gonna lie, him talking about the aesthetic and about the Hugo Boss, I don't know, it made me think of Andrew for some reason.
It did. It made me think
fucking knew you were gonna say that. God damn it!
It was so.
I also love the reasoning where he's like, "Look, he lost his testicle in World War I, right? But that's what imbalanced him. All right, before that." He would have had all of his creative genius applied to art and to painting, and he would have become one of the greatest. He would have become the greatest, like, artistic mind of the 20th century. But this imbalance led him down a darker path of artistry, and you're like, what the fuck? Just the idea that like losing your nut can fucking turn you into a psychopath.
I really do. I mean, I love the show as a whole because it really does feel like it starts out with this just regular, pretty kind of, I mean, well off, pretty regular dude getting some inheritance, and then he just gets caught up in something, and it just continues to devolve and devolve into more wacky fucking shenanigans and like characters that he gets involved with.
Yeah, and for like the first 2/3 of the season, he keeps getting into like fights and shit, and like just getting his ass kicked and kicking ass and all sorts of shit. Like, there's a ton of action in the show, which is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
But then like half of the fights resolve with whoever he was dealing with being like, why didn't you just fucking say that you work for Bobby Glass or
Right.
Bobby Glass?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why didn't you just say that? Yeah.
Why didn't you just say that? And he's like,
And the guy who plays Freddy, his brother, oh man, as like the fuck up, he did such a good job.
Yeah.
And
although, you know who I didn't realize were who they were was freaking, how the hell do you say this last name? Kaya Scodelario?
Yeah, from Skins.
Yeah, I didn't realize that she was Effie from Skins until Shelby pointed it out to me. She was like, "Oh yeah, she was in Skins, but I don't know anyone else." I was like,
"Oh yeah."
And then, I did a double take and was like, "Oh my god!"
I knew her from the get go.
She's
unforgettable. So yeah. Do you want to know what?
Every time I look at her,
one of my favorite, like minor, just like kind of like a background thing within the show, just like something that they change up. I don't know if you noticed, but like it's like, you know, I also just love the fact that like I think they differentiate Freddy and Eddie from each other a lot by like you see Freddy and he's like ripping a fucking vape, just like a disposable vape all the time, and then you watch like Eddie, he'll like if he smokes, like usually it's like something more dignified, like a cigar or like something like that. One of my like minor things that I noticed, also because I'm watching it through a second time because Casey's watching it with me, and she's been enjoying it so far, is like even just in the first like couple episodes, I don't know if you noticed, but like Freddy's chiefing on this fucking vape constantly. And I don't know if you noticed, they switch out, like they give it, like he's got different colors, and like you could tell, like he's just going through these fucking things with how he's chiefing on it. Like he just like they switch out the color of it. Like I think like just in the first two episodes, you see like 3 or 4 different colors of vape that he's got. I like that little detail that they just like add in there. Like you can tell he's just like going through them. It's not just like a prop.
And it like
I also love
plays into his character though too. Like
it
builds on his character as being an addict. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the degree of how much Eddie drinks, like exponentially increases as the show goes on. Which is also hilarious. And the guy
I killed a man. I'll have a single glass of like something at 6 a.m, and by the end, it's like chugging.
And then the guy who played Jimmy, that he did such a good job. He was such a good character. And that whole, like, laying the groundwork of that girl who he thinks likes him, who then, I guess, supposedly does grow to like him early on, and then bringing that back full circle at the end of the season, that was also really, really good. Really well done. But Freddy as, like, the fuck-up, having him be the fuck-up continually, 3-4 episodes into the season, every time something's about to go down that's somewhat decent, Freddy fucks it up again. Until finally it's like he disappears for a little bit, and then when he comes back into the main story, he like is propositioning Susie to like get rid of his brother at the fight. And you're like, what the fuck, dude? After how many times he saved your ass? And then after they go visit that crazy old guy, or after the whole thing with that crazy old guy, when they go visit the guy at the house where the gangsters have already taken over, and the guy makes him give him his pants, for them to decide that that's the moment that they're going to have the serious conversation where Freddy admits to his brother that he tried to have him offed, and that he's sitting there telling him with no pants on in his tighty whities, telling him that information, was such a fantastic choice.
Yeah.
And Eddie's response too, when he Like, that's another differentiation. Freddy and Eddie could get really annoying, but he always calls him Fredmond.
Yeah, Fredwin or
Fredmond.
Fredwin or Fredmond.
Fredmond or Fredwin, yeah.
well, no, so Eddie always doesn't he just always call him Freddy, and isn't Freddy calling Eddie like Edwina?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a joke on their parents would mix their names up. So I think
yeah.
Eddie's name is actually Edwin, and Freddy's name is like something longer than Freddy.
Probably Frederick.
Probably Fredmond, honestly. Which is why he will sometimes say like Fredmond or Fredwin.
Yeah. Did you guys also recognize the princess?
Leah McNamara?
Who? No. Gaia Weiss. She plays the one girl in Vikings who's like she like marries she marries it's Ragnar Lothbrok's son. What's his name?
She marries Bjorn.
Yeah, she marries Bjorn. Yeah.
And I haven't watched Vikings in so long, dude. I don't think I ever finished it because they wrapped up, right?
Yeah, I never finished it either, but I watched quite a bit of it.
Yeah, Vikings was really good. I also love that they cast Ray Winston to play Bobby Glass, and he gets to just be like awesome and badass in every scene that he's in.
Yeah,
I love Ray Winston. Anytime he shows up, I'm like, yes, please, more of him.
Yeah.
But to go back to that scene you brought up with Freddy offering to be Susie's like tool, basically.
Yeah.
And she like shuts him down hard.
Mm-hmm.
You get that idea of like honor among thieves, which
Right.
is kind of like the idea of the show, right? Is this like mythology of like these English crime families or whatever, which is kind of like the ongoing thread between like the Gentleman, Rock and Rolla, Snatch, like all these different things, right? And it's just like that scene in particular like knocks it home and like really defines her character. Really just like shows who you can trust and like who you can't really trust. But then like to see that affect Freddy and for Freddy to like then ruminate on it, tell his brother, and like become a better person for having like gone to that low level and come back up from it. You know? Like the character growth in the show is fantastic.
Yeah, it's funny because like Guy Ritchie and Mark Helwig, who's the producer, they were like talking about how much like what they want to do, like turn this into like a Guy Ritchie cinematic or a television universe, I guess you could say. Like Guy Ritchie's thrown around the idea of bringing Johnny Quid or some of the other characters from like, you know, Snatch or somebody, like bringing some like Turkish or something, bring them into this world. Because he said that all of his British crime movies for the most part take place, he feels like, in their own little world. And somebody recently interviewed Theo James, and they were like, who plays Eddie, and they were like, what do you think about season 2? And his response was kind of like, I know exactly what he's doing. He's pulling a Jussie Smollett without the crime. He said, well, you know, it would really need a strong narrative drive, and that was never discussed before. Pretty much what he's saying is, if we're going to do season 2, pay me more, without saying it. Like, that's 100% what he's doing, and I get it. Because this first season was so successful. But I could 100% see Guy Ritchie either going awesome, or I'm going to murder Eddie in the first episode, because fuck you. And that's season 2. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Theo James is that the only thing I had really watched with him before this, because Shelby told me that he was in the Divergent stuff, and I was like, oh, I never saw those. God, what the fuck was that name? The name of the show?
He was in
He was
Underworld.
in a show on BBC that was like he had Bedlam. There it is. It had 2 seasons, right? And he's like the main character for the first season. And this is like 2011. And like he can see ghosts. And then like the first season ends, and then the next season starts up, and it is a like completely different main character. It's a girl, and I think he has like 1 cameo maybe. But like for him to just be like main character in the first season, and then like not there for the second season would be kind of
I mean he's very good in this show. I think this is the best I've ever seen him in anything. He does the voice of Hector in the Castlevania series, which is probably the other thing that I watched the most that he was in. But yeah, I mean he's been doing like it's not like he's been doing a ton. So it'll be interesting. I mean he was in White Lotus, but we'll see.
To go even farther back, because you guys didn't ask who Peter Serafinowicz was in Star Wars, he did the voice of Darth Maul.
That's right. Yeah,
he was the voice of Darth Maul in Phantom Menace.
He also says, "What a bunch of a-holes" in Guardians of the Galaxy, which is a great line.
Also, we've talked about all these. We've talked about all these actors. I feel like we have not brought up Giancarlo Esposito.
Well,
true.
I have to say, if anybody casts him as the villain who gets to wear a suit and wax poetic again, he's going to be typecast as that forever.
I mean, he's already being typecast as it. Like, this is him being typecast as that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that honestly, movie, Abigail, he's the same thing.
I absolutely love that he's an American guy who came over here to sell meth.
I was going to say, I look at it as a prequel. I just look at it as like a prequel to Breaking Bad.
It's a sequel. It's a what if Gus won? What if Gus won?
Fair. Okay, so it's like a different timeline. That's fair.
Yeah.
I like that.
I don't know how you convince him to do it, honestly. Like, listen, I know you've played a meth lord before. You want to do it again? Let's run it back.
He probably read the script, laughed, and was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." I get to be the guy who drinks the finest wines and smokes the finest cigars, and I wear like really nice clothes all the time. Yeah, I'll do it.
Dude, that wine conversation with the close up of like them washing the wine and all of that stuff, it was like this is him doing that Johnny Quid cigarettes on the piano thing, but with wine. Cool. Let's go. Yeah, that was good. That was such a good show. Yeah. It's so fun.
Also really liked Christopher. How the hell do you say his last name? Hivju as Florian de Groot.
Yeah. I think Torsten from Game of Thrones. Yeah, he was great.
Yeah. And the scene where he gets his just desserts is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. It's a great show. Blanket too, the like hitman Susie Glass bodyguard guy that's always like the one who's got to every time she asks him to do something, he's got this like yes ma'am, but also again, really I gotta do this look on his face. Like when they find out who the mole is and they have to take him out and kill him, you can tell that like he doesn't want to do it because like he's friends with this guy, but also like we're gonna do it. Yeah.
And then the guy who's the cleaner, he was really interesting too.
Yeah.
I don't see him on the cast page here.
Yeah, who is that? That's
is it Collins? Max Beasley? Not Collins. Who are you talking about?
I don't know. But did you know that Vinnie Jones played for fucking Chelsea?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
He played for Wimbledon, Leeds United, Sheffield United, Chelsea, and the Queen's Park Rangers.
Yep.
Dude, he had a pretty good career in football.
He did.
Or for our non-listener, soccer.
He was fined and
Oh,
was
he's a
given
midfielder too.
a ban for being too aggressive. He exceeded 40 disciplinary points in a single season. The FA banned him for the rest of his life after a certain point. And when he left the meeting in the press conference after, he told the Football Association that the officials that they needed to grow up and stop acting like children.
What a fucking lad! What a lad!
In the 1970s and 80s, the FA directly blamed him for the rise of hooliganism in football.
I was gonna say he sounds like a hooligan,
which is why Guy Ritchie loved him and cast him in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who better to play the part of the guy who like beats a dude to death with a car door?
Yeah. I'm not sure if you guys ever saw Midnight Meat Train, the movie based on Clyde Barker's short story Midnight Meat Train, with him and Bradley Cooper, but it's pretty good. It's not great, but it's pretty good.
I feel like I did see this. I think we watched this in like a high school movie night kind of thing.
Yeah, it's not great, but it's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, 6 out of 10 on IMDb. Right in our wheelhouse.
Uh-huh.
So, highly recommend this one.
Yep.
The Gentleman, I should say. The TV show on Netflix. Highly recommend.
Yeah.
Very good. It is very, very good.
Yeah.
It's been a very good year for TV between Shogun and that and Three Body Problem and Fallout. It's been really good so far.
Shogun has been pretty good from what I've seen of it. But pretty good, that is high praise from me.
Yeah, it is very good. What is have you guys ever seen The Man from U.N.C.L.E.?
I have not.
No.
You haven't?
You want to watch like that and Rock and Roller for next week?
Yes.
We can do that.
Cannibal extraordinaire Army Hammer is in The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Cannibal extraordinaire. Is that why he disappeared?
Because he's a cannibal? Yeah. Also, there's an ongoing murder investigation in LA County that he is on the list for, potentially. Now he sells timeshares somewhere in the Caribbean.
Wild.
But he's very good in The Man from U.N.C.L.E., as is Henry Cavill. And Alicia Vikander. All three of them are phenomenal in that movie. It's a very good movie.
Imagine being like one of the biggest up and coming stars, and then you're like, I'm gonna eat people now.
Dude, some of those texts and the DMs, my God in heaven. Wow. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine, dude.
Yeah, Man from U.N.C.L.E. is up there for me. I've watched that almost as much as I've watched any Guy Ritchie movie.
Elizabeth Debicki's in it?
Yes, she's very good in it as well.
Oh, you know how tall she is?
Very tall.
She's 6'3".
Yeah, she is very good in it. It is just a great, fun. You know what? The Man from U.N.C.L.E., it bombed in theaters because they released it at a really shitty time, but it is a great movie. And it could have been like...
I would assume it is great if it's got Elizabeth Debicki in it.
It's Henry Cavill's James... Like, he was up for James Bond at a certain point. He did this movie, and everybody was like, oh, he would have destroyed James Bond. He would have crushed James Bond. Because for all intents and purposes, his character in this movie is James Bond.
I mean, Henry Cavill is like one of the most English guys. And yet, for some reason... he just keeps getting fucked over everywhere he goes.
This is probably my favorite, like, big budget studio money Guy Ritchie movie where he keeps his style. And Rock and Rolla doesn't need any explanation. Rock and Roll is just Idris Elba, Gerard Butler,
Tom Hardy,
little babyface Tom Hardy,
Thandie Newton,
Mhm.
Mark Strong,
Mark Strong's so good in that.
Jeremy Piven, Ludacris.
You either hit him or you cut him, but you keep the receipts because this ain't the fucking mafia. I love that movie.
Me too. That same person I got in the argument with,
Dude, eventually you're just gonna have to dead name this person.
the same person I got in the argument with over Mad Max was like, Rock and Roll was where Guy Ritchie started going wrong. Like, that's probably his worst movie. And I was like, wrong. Wrong, dude.
Yeah, it's the soundtrack to that movie is so fucking good.
It really sounds like this guy just has all the worst takes. Like, if I want to know what movies to watch, I'll find out what movies he doesn't like.
Dude, imagine someone who had only ever been homeschooled trying to tell you what media is good.
Hmm.
Nah.
Well, I was homeschooled, so I have wonderful taste.
Oh, Isaac, were you homeschooled?
All the way through, baby. All the way
Man,
through.
if only I'd known that before I said it.
I was only socially challenged until I was 23, okay? It took me one marriage and divorce to get it right.
Damn.
But now,
Has Toby Kebbell,
Off to
who
the races.
played Johnny Quid in Rock and Roll, has he done anything else?
yeah, dude. He did that amazingly horrible episode of Black Mirror, which was fantastic. He played Koba in the Planet of the Apes movie. Very good in that. It's mocap, but he's very good in it. He was in Kong Skull Island. He was pretty good in that.
Oh, true. However, he fucking dies without like doing anything cool in Kong Skull Island.
Yeah, but he's still in it.
True.
You asked if he had done anything. That's all you asked.
He's been in some big stuff.
He has, yeah. He's in For All Mankind, but I don't really watch that show. He's also in Servant, and he's very good in Servant, and he's in all of Servant. I'm not sure if you've watched Servant. It's him and Rupert Grint. It's very good.
M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, there's a bunch of seasons now, but him and Rupert Grint are both very good in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rupert
cool, pretty
Grint
cool.
was Ron Weasley for anyone unfamiliar with this indie actor.
Yes.
Who's Ron Weasley?
He was that redheaded ding dong in those. He was in a couple movies when he was a kid. You might have heard of him.
He stars
You
in
probably
trans-exclusionary... He stars in trans-exclusionary radical feminist J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter books. Or movie.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Pretty wild. Did you guys
Love the
see that
number of
Ryan
titles she
Gosling...
has.
Did you guys see that Ryan Gosling showed up to the premiere of The Fall Guy dressed like Beavis?
Yeah.
From the Beavis and Butthead skit? I'm so happy about that. I'm so happy that that skit is now a thing.
He's a man of the people, you know.
He is. I'm very excited for Fall Guy. I'm gonna go see it next week.
All right. Do we have anything else we want to talk about? Did we actually want to get into talking about censorship in video games?
We can, because things are... I don't know. The Stellar Blade stuff's weird.
It is.
Because you've got... Like, there are camps. Camps have formed on either side of the battlefield.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's hectic. Maybe we should just talk about it. Let's just talk about it. All right. So Stellar Blade, demo came out for it. months ago, people got real excited because it was like, ooh, sexy girl video game. It's kind of Dark Souls-y. Like, you gotta parry stuff and then you hit enemies. And that kind of got some hype. And then the, was it pre-release or something? Or a beta came out. A bunch of people played it and were like, ooh, nice. Yeah, awesome. Sexy girl game. Wow. And then it released and had a day one patch that had it altered the costumes in a couple different places.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, on the other side of the Stellar Blade stuff, while the gamers were getting all hyped for it, you had like game journos being like, oh, this is like bad character design and it's not nearly as good as like, what's her name, B from Nier Automata, or what was the Nintendo game?
Hades.
No, not Hades. Bayonetta.
Oh yeah.
Which was interesting because if you were alive and aware at the time, whenever like Nier Automata or Bayonetta came out, there were also camps when those games came out that were like, oh, this character design is like disgusting and like I don't know, like it's just trying to appeal to the male gaze, like that kind of stuff, which is the same things we've kind of heard about Eve from Stellar Blade. Mm-hmm. So game comes out. Before it had come out, it was revealed and kind of promoted that like, it passed the Japanese ratings board, so like the completely uncensored game is going to come out for like the entire world. Because what happens a lot of time is that you in America are buying a different game from like Japan or Europe or Saudi Arabia or I don't know, maybe I think South America and us probably get the same games, version of the games at least. And that can be because of a bunch of different reasons, right? So in Germany in particular, right, you can't have swastikas in the game because it's like obviously more bad over there than it is over here. So like Call of Duty games that take place in World War II can't have any swastikas in them. Another thing will be like in China, games can't have skulls in them. So a game that might have like a biker gang who has like flags with skulls on them, they'll just remove the flags for the China release, right? But America, we're fucking almost chill because we can put out video games that is, you fucking do whatever you want, you know, have people explode, have their guts everywhere, put boobies on screen, fuck a bear. Whatever you want, pretty much. The only limiting factor there being like whatever rating the game gets. And that only matters because of like what stores can sell to minors, right? So I got lost. Do you guys have any thoughts on that so far?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Scott.
No, I mean, I think you summed up a lot. I mean, I think there came like I think it was interesting because it came out and there was first a lot of uproar because guys were, I mean, the gamers on one side were already mad because it wasn't getting review bombed like they thought it was. Like, it's gotten generally favorable reviews. Generally favorable reviews. It sounds like it's got good gameplay. I mean, seems like people like it. I mean, it's not my style of game. I don't think I'll ever buy it. I don't think I'll ever play it, but I mean, people seem to like it.
We should also say it is a PlayStation exclusive, so even if you're PC or Xbox, you can't buy it.
Yeah. Which I also find
I would-
interesting because there is a vast amount of uproar from people who have admittedly don't have a PlayStation. Granted, I get they're taking a stance on an issue. That's totally fine. I mean, you should be allowed to do that. But yeah, I mean, it's a game only made for play. I mean, I don't even know. Is it ever? I doubt it will ever. Well, I don't know. PlayStation has gotten a little bit better about allowing exclusives
PlayStation
to
is
hit
pretty
PC
wonky,
and all that.
and a lot of the times they'll be like, "Oh, this is an exclusive," and then like years down the line they'll put out a PC port for it, or maybe like a year or two from now they'll put out a PC port for it.
Yeah.
But to tie into what you're saying, the issue that has come out since the release of the game and the day one patch is that certain of these costumes for the character were altered in such a way that is one might say obfuscates the cleavage.
Yeah. Well, and I know we had our conversation about it because there's the issue with the bunny suit where it's like it covers up the cleavage, but then there's like some that were altered and you get a little bit more ass there. And I think it's interesting because it's just kind of like
why not both?
Yeah. And it's also just like
the cleavage and show more butt. Like it's not like the character is ever nude.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, it's also just like if they were gonna like censor, why not? Like, why wouldn't it just go the way of like kind of making a lot, like making all the costumes more modest, or making some of them more modest, or like tweaking them that way. The only thing I could think is like you said, like they announced, oh yeah, this is good to go. It's gonna release, like fully uncensored, whatever. And assuming that like the day one patch is the intended release, so it's kind of like that was what they got approved. So then we had that conversation of like, oh, obviously, if you want to have like one universal release, you're going to have to kind of figure out a way to appease all of the, you have the different games rating boards, and you're going to have to find a way to appease all of them in some way. So I'm assuming that's what they did. They found a way to do that, and because I haven't seen anything about there being, I don't know if you've seen different about there being like a different version per country.
No, I believe it is the same version in every country, which is why people are frustrated with like why, because like a lot of the edits that are more visible, which are the cleavage edits, they're like doing. It's like, oh, she has like some silk across the cleavage now, which is like.
Yeah,
like it feels like a Christian modesty edit. Like too much boobies. Put a undershirt on.
Yeah, which I mean, it did feel really weird because it's like that of all things is your problem.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
like, are things weighted differently? Like,
yeah,
seeing more butt is not as bad as seeing more boobs, and if so, why?
Hey. The Japanese are ass men. They're not bitty guys.
Well, Shift Up is a Korean developer.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
but it is weird to me.
I was going to say this was a Sony thing. Sony was the one.
The thing that's weird about it is that this is the home of Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball.
Yeah.
That's the console we're talking about here.
Also, this is the same studio that made Nike. Have you seen that game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of that game is jiggle physics.
It's just weird. All of it's very strange. Censorship as a whole is a big problem in movies, as like across the board, especially with China. Fuck the CCP. Fuck the CCP.
Yeah, you don't stand communists on this podcast. Fuck the Reds.
the Chinese Communist Party. Fuck them. And fuck, dude, they won't let a movie with Brad Pitt in it release in the country because he was in 7 years in Tibet. They have held that grudge for 25 years.
Wait,
Uh,
I'm sorry, who directed 7 Years in Tibet?
I don't even remember. Was it? I don't even know. Jean-Jacques Anand
Man, that's
directed
crazy.
7 Years in Tibet. Yeah. Yeah. He starred in that movie. He's never allowed to show his face in China, and they banned every movie that he was in. I believe they let Fight Club get released there momentarily, and then they banned it. All the Disney Marvel movies.
Dude, of all the movies they would let get released there, why would they do Fight Club?
They heavily edited it. Heavily. If you go online and look up what has been edited in movies that are released in China, it is an insanely exhaustive list of things. It is insane what they do when they release things there, if they choose to release things there, what they choose to edit. But, like, there's a line in Casino Royale where M says, "God, I miss the old times." And they made them change the line to, "God, I miss the Cold War," because they don't want people thinking fondly about the old times in China.
Yeah.
That is how
Remember when we
crazy
were
the
an
censors are.
empire?
Well, to be fair, Mao's
Remember when
revolution
we
was
were
in
a
the 60s.
dynasty?
It wasn't that long ago. Like, their communist revolution was in the 60s. It was not like the Bolshevik Revolution. It was not 100 years ago. It was... Our parents were alive, so it's like, it was there. But, yeah, it's the whole censorship thing with this Stellar Blade game. That's weird to me is how much Sony's let it grow into this thing. It's like turned into this weird. It's all for some reason it always turns to some sort of weird political issue where it's like, well, only like Asmongold fans want the censorship to not be there. Everybody else is fine with it.
Yeah. Well, and it was interesting because, I mean...
Well, let me talk about that real quick.
Yeah.
So the idea behind, like, pushing back so hard on this game, right, is that, like, it was promoted as, like... I mean, it was very heavily promoted as, like, a sex sells kind of game, right?
Yeah.
And so then for day one, for you to, like, walk that back even one step is, like... They're seeing it as, like, one step in the direction of, like, censorship, right? So what they're seeing this as is like, give them an inch, they'll take a mile, right? So they're like, no, look, this is a game that came out the way we wanted it to come out. And then you changed it. So, like, don't even give them a single inch on this thing. Like, make this an issue so that they don't do this again, right?
Yeah.
So, like, that's kind of what their idea is behind this. Like, that's why they're pushing back. That's why the chuds are pushing back so hard on this.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what? It's the idea is like censorship. Censorship is censorship. Like, doesn't matter what it is. Any of it's bad.
Yeah, but I also think there's an issue of, so it happened and immediately everyone jumped on like, wow, like fucking Sony censoring things, blah, blah, blah. And then even after an interview came out with the developer, the creator of the game, like coming out and saying like, this patch, like the day one patch, and like the way that the game is, like this is how we intended it to be released. And it's funny because even people were calling out, like they released this interview came out, people were already like, yeah, just wait until they immediately start trying to say like, oh, this is a very Sony, like they're like, it was already called out from the get-go. Like the guys are gonna immediately try to say like it's a conspiracy and Sony's like behind it. Even if like you're not gonna just give the benefit of the doubt that like the developer was just like, yeah, like we made a change.
Well, part of that same interview
to have a universal release
asked,
of the game.
Do you guys get along with Sony? And they give a pretty ambiguous answer to it.
Yeah, and that's fair, but also you have to remember we're reading this translated. So like,
I mean, I watched the interview.
no, as did I. And I think people sometimes read into these things in like the way that they're saying it. I mean, I feel like they've generally had been fine. And it's like when you're looking at this, it becomes on the verge of conspiracy theory to be like, oh, like Sony had them change it because they wanted to censor one costume, like they wanted to like make one costume more modest instead of like, oh, the developer censored this in order to have a universal release worldwide, and that's why it was done. Instead, it becomes like,
Sony is also known for like censoring other like Asian games, so like Japanese games and
that's
that
fair.
kind of
But
stuff.
why would they just? Why would if they were going to flex their power? Why would they be like, we need you to put one piece of fabric over the boobs on this one costume instead of going, hey, remove the skin suit, which was the big thing everyone was talking about in the previews of the game. Like the skin suit was really the bunny suit never even became a thing until this one little piece of fabric got put on it. And then it became like, now it's the big boogeyman. Is like, oh, they put fabric on the bunny suit and not like, oh, this skin suit that basically makes the character look like she's not wearing anything. Like, that was like the big uproar when it was like in demo. So it's kind of like
this has happened before, though. This isn't the first time. Like, when Bravely Default came out, the two female characters in that game, the two lead female characters in that game, all of their outfits were censored for the Western release and were not censored in the Japanese release. All of them. And that was like a JRPG, but at the same time, they also like changed the ages of the characters. They were all supposed to be like high schoolers, like 16, 17, and they made them all 18 and older because for the Western release. And that's like the American release. And that's like something where you're like, but why though? Like,
yeah,
why don't you just raise the ages? Why do you have to change the costumes and raise the ages, or change the costumes but don't raise the ages? It doesn't make sense.
But now that becomes an interesting argument because everyone over here is going, well, Western release games get like whatever they want, and now all of a sudden it's Sony. It's Sony. It became a very much like, why are Western releases allowed to have bear fucking and all of this stuff, and yet Sony's censoring a game for Eastern audiences? Like I'm trying to find where the argument comes in that it's just like the developer didn't just make a decision based on having a universal release worldwide, and that it's not just like some conspiracy of Sony being like, we want to censor one little thing. Yeah. Like it seems like it's
like historically, like Sony has been like, yeah, let's censor one little thing. Like, this is a game for mature audiences, but we're gonna like relabel every bottle in the game with soda instead of like beer.
I think changing entire outfits and ages of characters is a much more widespread change of a game than putting a piece of fabric over boobs. I think that's my thing, is like, if they were gonna go for it, change all the outfits of the characters. Apparently, if they have that sweeping authority to do that, why wouldn't they just do that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, I don't know. When the developer says that, I mean, if they're already not getting along with Sony, I mean, what, you're just gonna keep? Either you got to stick up for yourself and call it out and bring light to it. I mean, I get it, you have NDAs or whatever, but
that would be the chief argument against it, is like, you're under NDA and you probably can't say anything bad about your publisher.
Yeah, it's like I mean, I guess I don't know what their contracts say. I don't know. Like, at that point, do you just move on? Like, do you find someone else to publish under?
That's a tough question, because there's not many publishers that will take a game from the East and bring it to the West and make all of the accommodations to do so.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I think there's an agreement though that like in general, I think it's an archaic system to have governments and like these almost like these government controlled boards that are mandating what is allowed within games, and it feels very archaic and old, like it hasn't been updated in a very long time.
Yeah, I mean that is the odd part of all this, right? Is why is the same institution that is allowed to like kill people allowed to also be like, actually your female characters don't have enough clothes on. You can't sell this game to minors. Even though there's no nudity in the game? Yeah, even though there's no nudity in the game, their skirts are a little too short, buddy. And you're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, news, drone strike, drone strike, drone strike.
Yeah. No, I mean it goes back to like Grand Theft Auto. Hey, you want to run around and murder people, steal cars, and do whatever. Like it's fine, but God forbid we have a sex scene with a prostitute in the game.
Yeah, I mean, like Grand Theft Auto is a really good example of that. Like, oh, you pick up a prostitute and then like kick her to death to get your money back afterwards. Like, but now you're even hearing about Grand Theft Auto being like, yeah, we're gonna like change stuff to be more for the modern era, and you're like, you're Grand Theft Auto. That's not what people want, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, have you guys looked up all of the censored stuff in South Park Stick of Truth and their international releases?
No, but I have to imagine it's like 2/3 of the game.
The way that they handled it is hilarious. I posted a picture of one of the moments in the general so you can see it. The Australian release.
Let me just read this off real quick. So it's a picture of a statue of David with his hand in his face, right? With a flag behind him. I don't know what flag, because I ain't European.
It's the European Union.
European Union. It says censored, and it says, I don't know what to tell you anymore, Europe. In this scene, you would have been performing the first ever interactive abortion in a video game on Randy dressed as a woman to convince the Taco Bell guys that you were a real doctor. You would numb his scrotum, dilate his anus, and accidentally suction his balls. We'll just say they let you go. So I guess instead of visually showing that, they
they do that. And
described it.
The Australian release, I'm dropping one more picture. I just uploaded one more picture. The Australian release, they did the same thing, but it's a koala crying holding a tree. And you can see it says Bad News Australia. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Bad news, Australia. This part is censored for you, too. Here, aliens attempt to forcibly probe your rectum with a dildo-shaped probe, but you clench your sphincter to destroy it. Then it is replaced by a bigger, blacker dildo, and you are reamed again. Again, you destroy it by clenching your sphincter, and the whole machine breaks down, freeing you.
That's what they see when the scene happens, and then the game just picks right up after the scene's over. And in these different games, in the European releases and in the Australian releases, there are, 5, 6, 7, 8 moments in the game where this happens. And that's European and Australian censorship. Now, that's South Park, so obviously it's South Park, so they get censored all the time. Yeah. But the way that they handled it was just like...
the way they wrote it is probably way more crass than it actually plays out, because there's no way they would have showed like an actual dildo attempting to like forcibly enter a sphincter. It would have been like a sort of like, you just know they wouldn't have framed the scene that way. It would have been like more in the South Park way, where it's like implied that this is what's going on, and something happens, I assume.
Yeah, that the censorship thing though is like, it's weird that Sony chooses to like it's weird what they choose to where they choose to flex that, and where they choose to let it just not be a thing. I don't fully understand it.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so that's what's been going on with gaming and the internet these past 2 weeks, I guess.
Yeah. I'd say there hasn't been a whole lot else other than the Stellar Blade discourse.
Yeah, that has been a lot of it. Helldivers 2 put out a patch that made some people mad because it nerfed a bunch of guns and buffed a bunch of enemies.
Well, they need to just get better, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, well, actually, like there's a big stink about patrols where it was like if you were playing solo, you only got 1/6 of the patrols that a 4-person team would. And they were like, yeah, we bumped it up so that it's like more appropriate. You get 1/4 of the patrols that a full team used to get. And you're like,
did I buy it?
Oh, you still don't have it?
No, if I had it, I'd be playing with you.
That's crazy, dude. No, you wouldn't.
Yeah, I would.
We have so many of the same games, dude. So many. We've got Marauders.
All right, let's start playing.
I'm down.
I got
online.
I got the streaming setup going, so you know.
Oh shit.
We'll start streaming on the official Bad Pipes Twitch channel.
Hell yeah.
I don't remember what I named it, but I have one. There's one.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, guess that about does it for this week.
Yeah, that's all I got.
I am glad that we were able to meet like somewhere in the middle for the censorship thing.
I mean, yeah. I'll disclaimer it. I don't agree with censorship and like I'm not one to be offended. I don't care. Honestly, like I would have been fine with them having her run around nude the entire game. I just also think at some point you gotta like.
If this was if this was still an IRL podcast, you and me would have fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger Predator hand shook right then. I just want you to know that.
Nice. Yeah, I don't agree with censorship in general. I think at some point though, you're gonna have to deal with the higher powers, and you do have to be realistic about it. And it's like I think if the worst, I do get the concept of like if they're gonna, if they take an inch, they're gonna take a mile. And like I think you do have to put your foot down at some point, but I think at the same time, yeah, sometimes you have to make a compromise. And I think if it's in the interest of like having a universal release, then so be it.
I guess the only thing we didn't bring up was that all of this has kind of been taking place against a backdrop of people feeling like they make the women in video games ugly now.
Yeah.
So
but again, that's like
but
again, that's like a very Western.
That's 100% a Western thing.
Yeah. That's a Western thing.
That's a Western thing. All our women got to look like they rolled down a rock hill and hit the ugly tree on every branch when they got to the bottom.
Yeah.
Where are the hot girls in video games at?
Not in Star Wars Outcasts.
It's that's another crazy one because she was like fairly attractive in the first like teaser trailer that came out, and then the last trailer that came out, it was like, is this the same character?
Yeah, they keep doing that.
What happened?
Oh, when does Star Wars Acolyte come out? Isn't that this month?
Oh God, is it?
Wait. Is that the name? I thought it was just Star Wars Phantom Menace part 1.5.
No, it's next month. Next month. It's next
Star
month.
Wars
We're
100% prequel.
Yeah, Star Wars.
We're 100% hate watching that
prequel.
show.
First episode date June 4th. Oh God, why?
Oh yeah.
You know what's crazy? That's a Tuesday, which means we will talk about the first episode on the 6th. This podcast episode will be up probably Friday the 7th.
Ugh.
It's got Carrie Ann Moss.
It
Can't
does.
be bad, right? It's got Carrie Ann Moss.
It's going to be very bad.
Yeah.
It's going to be very, very bad.
Well, if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and give us a follow on the old Twitter X app, website, whatever, at BadPipesPod. I've been more active on there. Shoot me a DM. I'll answer you.
Yeah, we gotta talk about your tweets, buddy.
What do you mean?
Shakes my head. Shakes
Losing
my head.
followers.
Losing followers.
That was
Shakes my
only
head.
after I posted someone's memes.
Are you sure it was that or not? Or from posting shirtless Hassan? Shakes
post
my head. Shakes my
Shirtless
head.
Hassan?
If you
not
like the
actually
music this
shirtless.
episode, it was by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio. If you, for some unhinged reason, wanted to give us $1, you could do that at patreon.com/badpipespodcast. And if you had a vehement disagreement with something we said, you can send that to CryptidWorksOfficial at gmail.com or Isaac's ass. Is that it? Is that everything? Is that all our
That's it.
social?
Pull the plug.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, good night. I love you.